This video is sponsored by Into the AM. Hey guys, Jay here, welcome to Eons of Battle. I just got done watching the big summer reveal show for Warhammer, the Summer Slam. And from a production standpoint, too long. It was 90 minutes and they showed off a bunch of stuff, but they didn't show off 90 minutes worth of stuff. There was edits. They could have tightened it up a little bit. The chat was getting rowdy. There was one guy, the username Boner, he kept saying Joe Mama, like every 5 minutes on the dot for the entire reveal show. It was kind of glorious. But they did show off some pretty cool stuff. Before the reveal show started, we were all like kind of fantasizing about what they were gonna reveal. And Nick was like, Leagues of Votann, 100%. And Sean and I were like, there's no way. Leagues of Votann are gonna be the last possible thing to come out right before Drukhari. But no. First thing they showed off was a bunch of new things for the Leagues of Votann. The first thing they got was a big new guy, Buri Agnirsen, also known as the Thrice Devoured. This is a Call they're called Calls, but his big thing is he hates the Tyrannid. And so he's like wearing a coat made out of the Tyrannid. He's carrying a big old stick. Apparently he's gonna have lone op in game, which is really good because I don't believe there's any lone operative anything for the Leagues of Votann. And so if he's cheap enough, he will definitely be included in a lot of lists. And he's just a really cool guy. I like his kind of robotic mask. He's got a bunch of robo limbs, I guess just one arm. And he's got some robo fingies. So you lose a couple of fingies, you just bolt on some new ones. But he is a really, really spicy little character. And it's interesting for Leagues of Votann to finally start to interact with the rest of the world. In the lore, the Leagues of Votann live at the black hole at the center of the galaxy, and they literally don't interact with any of the other races in the universe except the orcs, because the orcs can also withstand the crushing gravitational force of the black hole. And so, even though they're safe from almost everything, they're not safe from the orcs. The Leagues of Votann got another cool guy in the Archinist Evaluator. This is a mad scientist with a giant Tesla gun, and Nick is not a fan of this guy's face, and it's not great. It's a little on the silly side, although his helmet is really cool. I like kind of the padding that's going on, like it's a fabric hood. I do like the utilitarian like normalness of the Leagues of Votann, and his laser gun just looks super cool. It'll be interesting to see what this guy does specifically, because like his whole thing is that he invents new technologies and then brings them to the Leagues of Votann. And so like, will he give their guns like sustained hits or lethal hits? I don't know, it'll be interesting to see. I bet he's like a super, super cheap, maybe like 55 point character that you just attach to Squads of Votann. And Squads of Votann are actually getting a little bit more interesting with something they showed off later on. Another character is the Mirror Strategist. He is a fancy robot who is good at thinking. All of those little things that are coming off of him that would be like mechadendrites are apparently other robot brains. And so he can think with the power of 5 heads. And so he's really, really good at thinking. And then while he's thinking, his crotch arms are typing down everything that he's thinking so that those orders can go out to the rest of the troops. It is very interesting where they decided to place those extra arms, but I suppose that's a useful spot. New characters are always good, but they're not the most exciting thing. The excitement always comes from actual units, squads of dudes, because squads of dudes you can build your whole army around. And the Leagues of Votann, who are squats, but they're not squats, but they're really, really short, they got the Ironkin Steeljacks, which are tall. They are robots who are actually the height of normal things in Warhammer, although I do like that they still have tiny heads. They got big bodies, but tiny heads. These guys are neat, they're very cool, but they make me a little bit worried because I just don't necessarily see a place for them because they're bigger and tougher, and they're carrying the exact same weapons as the Hearthguard, which are the big Terminator type guys. So presumably these guys will be somewhat similar to those. You can also swap out their swords for guns, and the guns make me think of the Thunderpants, which are kind of like the big heavy gun-toting guys for the Leagues of Votann. So it'll be interesting to see the data sheet to know like how do these guys fit into how will these guys not be competing with other things that are already in the Leagues of Votann? I guess it's kind of hard because in 40k, there's only two things you can be. You can be good at shooting, you can be good at fighting, or you could be not worth taking in the game. So there's that, but I am very interested to see what the data sheet is looking like on these suckers. And I hope that they have much better movement because they have long legs. But the fun doesn't stop there for the Votann. They also have the Cathonian Earthshakers. These are some dedicated artillery, but they don't shoot up, they shoot down and through the ground, which usually with like high explosive ordnance, you don't want to immediately shoot at a very solid surface, but they got it all figured out so that their bullets can safely travel underground and then explode, which honestly, if that could be real, it would probably be really, really effective. And I guess these guys know exactly what they're doing. It's also nice to have a dedicated shooting unit because one thing that's kind of annoying with the Votann is they have the Hearthguard Pioneers, which have one guy carrying a mole launcher, which is kind of a good gun, but it's attached to the Berserkers who want to be in close combat. And so it's kind of awkward to have a really good gun that you're paying points for, but you don't really want to use. You want to be throwing these guys into the thick of it. So hopefully this will take a little bit of the pressure off of that mole launcher to do anything, where these guys can just be not lobbing, but underhanding a bunch of missiles and weapons and ordnance into the enemy's front lines. These guys are pretty darn sick. And then there is the Capricus, the Caprese salad of the Leagues of Votann, the little dune buggy. The regular Leagues of Votann, Hearthkin Pioneers? The Trikes, those guys are interesting, like fast moving, somewhat tough biker guys. I think these guys, though, fill out a much better role because they can hold 5 guys, and they're going to allow you to split a squad of 10 regular Votann into 2 squads of 5, which is actually an incredibly awesome ability. Sisters of Battle can do this. I don't think Guardsmen can do this, but for Sisters of Battle, you always do it because it splits like an 85 or 90 point unit into 2, so you now have 2 incredibly cheap units to do incredibly cheap things with. Stand on like the home field objective, screen out your home field for deep strikers. That's just an incredibly powerful rule in general, because if there's something in the codex that's like 45 points, you take it. You just have to take it because a body is a body. And so this vehicle having that rule alone kind of makes it an auto include. And it's kind of a small vehicle that can hold 5 guys. So depending on what can go inside it, like particularly if the Thunderpants can go inside it, they might not be able to because they're sort of Terminators, but they're also sort of not Terminators. They make their little Votann legs just a little bit longer. So hopefully they can go inside this guy and then it can just drive up and kick him out, which would be pretty cool. Almost as cool as one of the graphic tees available from Into the AM, today's sponsor. Have you ever been looking through your wardrobe and thought it was not up to snuff? Well, Into the AM is here to help with that. Into the AM is here to give you the look and feel you've always craved. They offer a huge selection of every kind of clothing you could need: shirts, denim jeans, joggers, briefs, flannels, jackets, and their item I love the most, graphic t-shirts. I love these shirts. Shirts like the Infinity Explorer graphic tee. This one has a sweet melancholy feel to it. Bourbon Voyage pullover hoodie. This one's really nice and warm. Heart of the Wild graphic tee. My Smoky Mountain parents really love this one. And the Space Saga vintage tee. It's got that retro vibe. All their art prints are incredibly detailed and vibrant. Their rotating selection of graphic shirts is huge, and every week they're adding more and more for you to choose from. Over at Into the AM, there's always some kind of a sale going on. Right now, if you sign up through the link in the description, you can get an additional 10% off your order from us. Go now and pick out your new style today. The Leagues of Votann are getting a new combat patrol. A lot of combat patrols coming out for 40k these days, and this one seems great. You get Hearthguard, you get regular Votannies, you get the Thunderpants, and you get the Call. Like, all of these things in the box are auto-include in any Votann list. 10 out of 10, would recommend. This seems like a great box. Really, really good times for the Leagues of Votann. There's still one thing that they haven't made yet that I'm a little sad about, but in the Codex, there is lore about the Votann itself, which is the AI that runs their society, going mad and building itself a robot body so that it can go and attack the enemy. They gotta make that into a model someday. But not today, but that model must be coming sometime in the future. But speaking of the future is now for Space Marines. We got more Space Marines and the internet rejoiced. This is actually pretty cool. We got some named characters who've been around forever as the tiniest little fine cast miniatures, if you can even buy them. So we got Vulcan Histon for the Salamanders in brutal new armor, although he's still got the Mark 7 helmet. He's got all of the different things that he originally had. He just looks really, really cool. Adrax Agatone is the other like Primaris unit or character available for the Salamanders, and he's also one of the coolest models they've ever made for the Space Marines. But this guy is pretty awesome, just brooding and walking forward, ready to stab something with, I think that is like one of the weapons of Vulcan the Primarch. He's got a helmeted option, which obviously you go with the helmet because it looks awesome, but his unhelmeted head is also pretty cool. He's just overall a very, very good model. But then, for the yellow boys, we got Darnath. Darnath Lysander of the Imperial Fists. I've always had a soft spot for this model. The original model you kind of can't use in 40k anymore because it's just too small. It's like half the height of a normal, like a modern Terminator. But I do like his original like Lego Man proportions. He's just so like scrunched up with his humongous shield and his humongous hammer. And the new model is great. The new model looks good, but I almost feel like his proportions are too good. Like I would be perfectly fine if he had a silly big shield and hammer, where his shield and hammer looks very good. It looks very proportional, but I don't know. What's the name of the Imperial Fist Primaris like captain? I forget his name, but he's got a power fist that's the size of his body. And that's cool. Like it's hard to get excited about a power fist, but a mega humongous power fist is fun. So I do wish that he had just a lot bigger weapons, but other than that, it's hard to complain. He looks really, really good. His shield looks awesome. His hammer that's 2 sizes too big, but it should be 10 sizes too big is also really, really cool. I like the simplicity of his armor because it just goes with the Imperial Fists. They really like practicality, although then they paint their armor yellow so the enemy has an easier time seeing them because they don't need to actually hide. But I do like this model a lot. Next up, we got Ravenguard Athon Sean. He needs to buy this model. This guy is super cool. I feel like, all these guys are fine, but this guy is clearly a cut above in the sculpting department. He's got an incredible, like, scenic base. He's got, like, weird little Tau drones that have, like, a gun sticking out the front of them that are, like, floating around the base. He's covered in these feathers that are poking out all over the place. He's got these really cool lightning claws. I really like that his feet have, like, these little grippy talons. Usually Mark 10 armor, Gravis armor that is made for flying, they have like this weird cushion under their feet. That is like a nice idea because you would need something like that if you were landing at Mach 10. But I do like the kind of silly, fantastical idea of just having like raptor talons attached to your feet. I think that is actually a better way to just make him feel more like a bird of prey, more like a vicious flying guy. This guy is just so wickedly cool. Oh, and his helmet. He's got like, it's like Mark 10 Tacticus on top, but then it goes down into a little bit of a beak, but it's kind of like a sharp beak. It actually looks really, really good. Man, this guy is really cool. Ravenguard are so cool. I really like the Vanguard Spearhead Detachment, which is the Ravenguard detachment for Space Marines. It's got some really, really cool stratagems, guerrilla tactics, letting you take things on and off the board. +1 AP, +1 damage is really good. Like, the Ravenguard are a really cool chapter of Space Marines. But speaking of really cool chapters of Space Marines, we got Iron Hands Canuck Var, who is a brand new guy because I don't think there was any actual named fellas for the Iron Hands. But this guy is really cool. He's a Terminator, and he's got like kind of a tank tready looking thing hanging off of his belt over his crotch. He's got all sorts of different antennas on him. He's got 2 little friends. One of the servo skulls to me kind of looks like he's throwing up Slurpee, but it's still like I don't know what it's doing actually. I guess it's projecting a little scene of a building that maybe they're gonna attack. And then he's got his big old stick Just a giant power whacking stick. This guy is really cool. Yeah, I don't hear a lot about the Iron Hands. There is an Iron Hand detachment for Warhammer. It's okay. It makes vehicles ever so slightly better, but not as better as the Black Templar detachment. Righteous Crusade can make them better because it comes with free multi-meltas. I do like his weird helmet that is like, it's a helmet, but the armor has been taken off, which is kind of an interesting look. So it's only got like the skeletal bones of the helmet armor as opposed to the helmet on or off. But yeah, this guy is really, really cool. And then we got a big ol' surprise. White Scars Sabedenkon. This guy, he's on a bike. It's a jet bike, not a wheeled bike or like a motorcycle, which is a little sad because like he's gonna be leading the bikes, but he's actually on a jet bike. But maybe he won't, if he's a lone op. If he's like a lone op at like 110 points, but he has like movement 14, that could actually be really, really cool. And this guy just looks really cool. The White Scars are awesome. I like that he's got like the heads of people attached to his bike. It's got a minigun sticking out the front of it, so it can probably throw out a ton of low strength attacks. It's got a big old spear sword thingy. Like this guy does look really, really cool. Man, White Scars, like some army, like Space Marines are actually, it's kind of easy to get excited for different Space Marines, even if you already play Space Marines, because if you tech into a different tree, if you tech into, I'm gonna bring 60 bikes to this battle, it's gonna be a very different play experience to just like tactical Marines and dreadnoughts and the normal stuff. And a big old bike army. I once put together like 25 bikes for a Deathwatch Space Marine army. I never ended up playing it, and I ended up selling that army because that's too many Space Marines to paint, but it would have been really, really cool. But speaking of cool things for Warhammer 40,000, we got the next Kill Team box, and it seems rather spicy. At first, you see the maze-like plastic walls, and you think Into the Dark, but this is actually Into the Nekron. This is a Nekron Tomb world, and we got Nekron walls with like little sarcophaguses where you can see the Nekron warriors that are like sleeping in like the eternal slumber, like after the war in heaven. Like this is a really, really cool looking board. I feel like it actually makes a little bit more sense in the Gallo Dark. Like bulkheads, a maze of bulkheads makes sense, but I feel like most Space Marine ships, or like most Imperium ships, are actually big enough that everything is a giant grand cathedral. Like if anybody played Deathwing, the video game, you're wandering through a Space Hulk, but everything is pretty big and open. I feel like Necrons, they don't care about openness. They probably don't even open their eyes or use their eyes when they're walking around their own ship. They just mathematically know everything. And so they would be like really, really tight corridors just for the Necrons to be wandering around through. So this is a really, really cool environment. But then it also has some really cool teams. We got Primaris Deathwatch. I actually put together, I kit bashed some Primaris intercessors into Deathwatch veterans, and I really, really like how they look. I feel like it's like a match made in heaven. And now they've just done it. And apparently these are going to be the new Deathwatch Marines. Now, I'm very excited because they look fantastic, and they do have all of the classic Deathwatch things. But one thing that does annoy me is the way they do 10th edition, where war gear is free, but it's kind of not because you pay for just having all the options. Having one of everything is not necessarily good when those options don't synergize well. Like, I remember at the beginning of 10th edition, I actually played a game against a really good Deathwatch player, and he was saying that it was his last hurrah for the Deathwatch before the rules change again, because they keep stopping you from doing interesting stuff. He was bringing like some 5-man squads that were going hard into the frag cannon and the Infernus bolter. And then he was going hard into 5-man squads with the Thunderhammers and the shields. And so you can take one unit and build it these two different ways to get two really powerful, specific uses out of it. If a squad is just going to be like one Xenophase blade, one storm shield, one grenade launcher, one heavy bolter, one plasma gun, all of a sudden you're paying for a bunch of guns that don't work well together. And so your price is you're overpaying for something that doesn't do the work. So hopefully they'll come up with some ways where you can mix and match and get the things that you need out of this box, as opposed to build one of everything and it's sort of okay in close combat and it's sort of okay at shooting, but not for the points that they're charging for it. Hopefully they'll figure that out though, and these models are really, really cool. But speaking of really cool, the Nekrons are also fantastic. We got a bunch of plasma sites, we got some brand new things in the tomb crawlers, and then we got the Geomancer. And the Geomancer is just a Cryptek, but this guy would work so well as a Technomancer. I feel like Technomancers wear the Canoptek cloak and stand on a 50mm base, and you always attach them to wraiths to get the 5-up feel no pain. This guy would make a great one of those. He looks really, really cool with his little, like, insect-like body. And then I guess the Geo is earth, and then he's got like a little pillar in the middle of him, and that's the earth part. But man, Necron Crypteks are so wickedly cool. In 6th edition, there was a 2-page spread on Crypteks in the Necron Codex, and you could build your own Cryptek. And so like, you know, you're buying your wizard, and then you're buying your wizard spells, and then you attach your wizard to a unit, and then that unit becomes better with different abilities that you've given it. Now they've just broken it down to the different like wizard sects for the Necrons, which works. But I like Crypteks. They're a really cool thing for the Necrons. They're not nobility, but you better listen to what your Cryptek has to say, or else all of your Necron units will just stop in the middle of battle because you didn't say he looks good enough in his Canoptek cloak. 40k got a bunch of big, exciting things, but for Age of Sigmar, there has been a rumor on the horizon forever, it feels like, that Chaos Dwarves are coming back into the scene. I was honestly actually kind of hoping for Chaos Dwarves for Old World because I have a dwarf army for Old World, and I think it'd be cool to have the good guy dwarves and the bad guy dwarves, and the old Chaos Dwarves looked really cool. They had a lot of Forge World support, and so they had some really, really cool, like beautiful units. But they're coming to Age of Sigmar, and we got the first glimpses at what these guys are gonna be. Now, technically they're not Chaos Dwarves. They're the dwarves who hid in like the Chaosy land, and so they didn't become the Fire Slayers or they didn't become the Caradhran Overlords, they became the evil dwarves. And so technically they're not Chaos Dwarves. And so all of my critiques are gonna be wrong, but I have some critiques. The big thing, the big flavor thing they decided to give to these guys is all of their weapons contain the soul of a demon. And this soul is represented by a Brussels sprout that is sitting right below the business end of all their weapons. Number one, as a painter, if you want to give me a fun detail to paint, make it a big shiny gemstone. Like gemstones are so much fun to paint. You can make them like round and shiny like the Eldar. You can make them really kind of sharp and geometric like the Leagues of Votann. But a little mushy ball is not that much fun to paint, and it's not the world's most exciting thing to look at. My next big critique is looking at the troopers. I think the troopers look really good, but I feel like they tone down the beards. Chaos Dwarves have beards that go to the floor, and I like that. I like big, silly, weird beards. Having like reasonable beards, it's not a reasonable army, it's the Chaos Dwarves. Let them have crazy, silly beards. And so far, we don't have any sort of trains. We do have the guns. There are the Death Shrieker Rocket Battery. No, that's the other one. The Tormentor Bombard. This guy's good. I like this a lot. It is just a big old cannon sticking out of a tractor, being manned by some dwarves. I really, really like that. The arrow launcher. I feel like these guys are cannoneers. They want to be shooting big, giant balls of lead. Not these little rockets. Little rockets, that can be for the Caradhran Overlords. They can shoot rockets. I want just I want to shoot giant balls of demon hate. That's what I want out of Chaos Dwarves. Another big thing that I see with these guys. Number one, I think color-wise, like the way the Heavy Metal team painted these guys, they decided to go with green for all of the evilness, and evil isn't green. I think if you repainted all of these things, I could throw these guys maybe into Photoshop and just like play around with colors. You make those things red, hot, fiery lava, all of a sudden they would look so much eviler and meaner and nastier. I feel like green is like magical and sorcery and maleficent. It doesn't scream bad guys to me. Also, just in general, not that many spikes, not that many, heads on spikes, not skulls hanging off of chains attached to them. Like, they seem very well put together, which makes sense because they're dwarves, but I would like to see just a little bit more chaos snuck into these guys. The Anointed Sentinels and the Infernal Razors. These guys are the Centaurs. I like these guys a lot, especially the shirtless version. Like, just some weird centaur guys, herds of these things charging up the battlefield. There's still the same problem of the little Brussels sprout weapons, but that can be, that could be altered, that could be fixed. I like that they got nice big beards. I like their weird silly horns. I like their thick centaur bodies. Like, there's a lot of fun stuff. If these guys were just the original Chaos Dwarves brought right back into the range, instant buy. As is, I'm tempted, but I'm torn. I would want to edit and change up kind of a lot of stuff on these guys. The Blunderbuss Squad is really cool. I like those big old guns and their just big meaty arms hanging onto these weapons. There's definitely some serious juice here, but I feel like it misses the mark a little bit. I want them meaner. I want him a little angrier, a little bit more aggressive. Also, I don't like the big hero. Uruk Tar, the dude on the mega bull with wings. I don't know, it's fine. Honestly, if it didn't have the wings, I would like it a lot more. As just a big battle automaton, but with the wings, I don't know. I don't believe those wings, and I know magic is what fuels it, but it looks like origami. Like, it doesn't look vicious or monstrous. It looks kind of neat. Like this would be lovely on like a card art for Yu-Gi-Oh or Magic the Gathering. But it wouldn't be one of my favorite cards that I put on the fridge. It would just be yeah, this is a neat card. I'm gonna put it into upright attack mode. The Helmsmiths of Hash-Hut are not the Chaos Dwarves, and I kind of wish that they were, but they're still pretty cool. I'll be interested to see if a Spearhead comes out for these guys, and if so, maybe I'd put together the Spearhead, test the waters, see if it's an army I could really sink my teeth into. It would be cool to have a bunch of the guns, a bunch of the Blunderbuss guys, and then just tons of Hobgrots. Just so many Hobgrots that are just covered in dirty down rust and blood splatter. I can kind of picture it in my head, and it'd be pretty cool, and I could paint it up relatively quickly, but I don't know. Right now I'm teetering. I'm teetering on yes, no. But you know what I'm never teetering on? EonsOfBattle.com. EonsOfBattle.com is a place to find our merch, like the Nick and J dice. We've also got wet pallets, water slide decals, and basing toppers and bits. And it's also the best way to support us doing what we do with a membership. Each month, members get a credit that they can use on our new monthly train packs or any previous pack we have ever made. This month, we have the Faraway Galaxy Bundle, a battlefield's worth of sci-fi buildings with a clever removable door and roof system for easy access. These buildings print easy and are perfect for cutting a battlefield into a dangerous urban maze. There's also plenty of cargo containers and barricades, including the XT6 cargo sled for moving all these accessories around the war zone. This set is perfect for quickly setting up a thematic battlefield on any system, planet, or moon. This set will be on EonsOfBattle.com for the month of July, and then it'll be gone. Big ol' shiny reveal show. Nothing is super burning a hole in my pocket that I'm I must buy. It could be that Black Templar is right around the corner, and so I need to get a bunch of that stuff. I mean, the Chaos Dwarves who aren't Chaos Dwarves are pretty darn cool. Nick has dibs on the Leagues of Votann, so I don't need to worry about that. The Space Marine stuff is cool, but none of it is Black Templar, and so I don't necessarily need any of it. I don't know. I think if I had to pick an overall winner of the reveal show, I think I gotta give it up to the Chapter Master of the Ravenguard. That is an incredibly cool Space Marine. I think if I had to, the best Space Marine ever made is probably Mephiston is like the coolest Space Marine that they've ever made. He looks so ridiculously cool. All his jacket that he's wearing over his Space Marine armor is so sick. That guy is really cool. The new Ravenguard guy might be number 2 for cool Space Marines. And then what's under that? I mean, I want to pick a Black Templar thing, but I feel like it's not true. It might be Adrax Agaton. I don't know. There's some pretty awesome Space Marines out there. I'm gonna have to get back to painting some Space Marines, so let me know in the comments what you thought the best thing at the reveal show was. And as always, thanks for watching. And don't forget to click the link in the description to get a cool Into the AM shirt today.